the whole transformation unfolded, and they had tried to do something 5 years before we got involved, and it really failed on them. And when we did the transformation enterprise-wide, they recognized Judith's wisdom was happening, and then they did a webinar to share their story, and Judith had the time to join us and kind of bring a little bit of focus. And this was before before the new book came out. So timing was really, really good, and so much continues to happen. It's profound, Judith.
Yeah. Well, that's because I believe in the people that take this work. It's not me. We're tapping into universal wisdom, and then you're able to bring it out into whatever environments you're working in. So thank you all for the what would you say, for the appreciation. But I know in your hands it goes much further than I could ever do it. So are there any questions that you'd like to have of each other? We have someone who's, from 30 years ago all the way up to newer friends and are using this work. But I loved it. Bob, we didn't hear what you're thinking about, because you're always on to another planet, I have to say, before the planet is known by anybody else in the universe. I know, didn't it come from your dad? Wasn't your dad like one of the first people to fly around the world or something he invented what did your dad do? The bomber, right?
Oh, he was an air. Yeah, it was a spy plane, is what it was. It was the Blackbird. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay. But his work was totally unconnected to all that I do. And things that I do right now are, in effect, creating future-ready communities. It's why this work ties in so beautifully. And so, Judy, don't leave. I'm just talking.
No, the rest of us are here.
Oh, good. But the work with Siemens Medical and other major corporations have enabled me to kind of connect sort of around the world with a lot of interesting communities. And that's where I think we'll be able to take some advantage of that network into what you're doing with the whole communication piece. It's the fundamental piece missing for all.
Mm-hmm. And are you going to be connecting? I didn't hear the full part of it, but Bob, is this bringing together people from around the world as in some capacity? Can you just share a little bit more, or is it too soon?
In some capacity. No, it's too soon, but in some capacity, we're networking with universities in Turkey, in the Netherlands. I have not tied Asia in yet, but we will, all of which I believe is going to be available to our network here at Creating We.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's wonderful to know, because you have somebody right here from Belgium. From Belgium, right? So Alex is Belgium. And from Singapore, we have Yvonne, who was on yesterday. So you want to know everybody who's in the Institute right now, and that might be part of whatever you're doing as you figure it out.
As we figure it out.
Yes.
As we figure it out.
As we figure it out, yes. You now have a new group of people who are alliance partners who you need to reach out to as you're sorting out this incredible. Bob is always ahead of most of the world. Right? He brings it back. It's like you go out. That's why I used your dad's plane as an example. You go out, fly around the world, bring back new ideas, and then startle us. And yeah. So a while ago you said to me, boy, wouldn't it be great if we could get people from the Creating Me Institute together so we could all learn together? Could you share your aspiration? Because that was part of what has opened up the door for all of us to come together, as well as the requests from others on this line. So can you say something about that?
I appreciate that, Judith. The crossover in all of our work, and the common DNA being through you, Judith, and definitely hearing all of us talk about how we've used it is tremendous. The we greater than the I individually, and if we can synergize together the things that are happening across the world, we definitely can help transform the world at a very, very short time and cause that to happen. And so it's just wonderful hearing how everyone is leveraging and willing to share and learn from each other. The community of communities is originating very much around Judith's wisdom, and we could all sense it.
Yeah. And I was sharing with the group today, I feel like I'm just channeling something out there. It's not me. So you too are part of this. What do you think? Does anyone have an idea about how we might do this? We were talking today and yesterday about ways to bring each other together or to use each other in some way as, what are we, thought partners? Yeah, thought partners. Can you envision us doing something where we can get together either in person and would in person be best, at least once a year to share some of the learnings and the experiments and the things that we're doing?
Annual conference.
Yeah, at like an annual conference. Could you give us more picture of what that might be like? Yeah.
If there is a way to share stories, just conferences that share stories of how we're individually experiencing the wisdom, and then bringing it together, sharing those stories, and see what emerges from that sharing, it could be very, very profound. Whether we do it virtually or in person like this, virtually may be wonderful, but just to hear others talk about it, and then bring others beyond the Creating We Institute to hear how we're using
Well, we're having a lot of challenges with the sound at our end. I don't know if other people are. Yeah. Let me see if we're getting anything from our friend Max. No. Max, Bob, can you mute your camera for mute your sound? Yeah, can you mute your sound? So, what I'd like to, yes. What did you do? Yes.
But you can still hear him. He didn't mute himself.
Yeah.
Done something.
He did something.
Okay. Anyway, the purpose of this call was to. Now we can't hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, just tell
Bob, we can't hear you, but the sound's disappeared.
the noise.
The noise has disappeared. The purpose of this call was for people to at least see each other, hear each other in the best capacity we could. My colleagues here they were almost finishing 2 days, so it's almost time for people to be departing back to wherever they're going. Is there any way that we can use the little bit of time we have to do any more sharing? Any questions that you have about what's up for this group? Would that be helpful?
I have a question.
What? Yeah. What are some next steps? What we're doing after the focus of this meeting was 2 days to come together and talk about what would it be like if we were doing certifications, if in each part of the world people were developing a Creating We Institute, what would that consist of? And so out of this meeting, we now have a list of things. I wasn't even in the full part of the last part of the meeting. I was getting ready for this call, but we will supply to all of you some ideas that came out of this meeting. And then find a place, if you would like to talk on LinkedIn, we have one way to do it. We have a LinkedIn community. And we can start talking about sharing ideas that people have about what would be some great next steps to keep this moving forward. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Okay, terrific. You have a, John.
Yeah, quick question, guys. We've got 3 newbies here, and drawing from your experience, as we conclude our 2 days together, some of the things we've been talking about have been things like our unique sales proposition, our offering. What advice would you give us newbies? Maybe 1 or 2 one-liners that we can share with our prospective customers as we get back to our place.
In other words, what would interest people in this work, in the value proposition of doing something? And Sai, can I put you on the spot because you're really good at this?
I appreciate that. I honestly never go in and merely pitch Judith's wisdom. I look at the problem and the business context and what they're trying to solve. And once I recognize it, subtly I begin to emphasize the human element in it all. And as they begin to acclimate around the human element, Judith's wisdom just immediately emerges in the conversation. And at that point, they, talking about how conversations are a means to an end relative to the world in which they operate, but extremely, extremely natural. Mm-hmm. So if I look at the wisdom that Judith presents in the context of business impact is perhaps a way to summarize that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the nugget, the human element.
Yep.
Great. Other nuggets, please.
I want to emphasize the same thing Sai was talking about is if we were to take the practice of what we're looking at, it's relationship before task. And when you're going in, the client has to realize that you're really genuinely concerned and caring about them, and you're going to have open up with candor to them as a result. So the key element is not selling the business proposition, it's selling the relationship. And therefore, the business relationship will then come as a result.
Mm-hmm.
Another great nugget is the relationship, not the solution.
Which seems so amazing because 30 or 40 years ago, everybody was saying, "Oh, I have it now. We have to put business first. That's what the problem is. We're spending too much time talking, right?" And now we're looking at it from relationship before task. So
don't bring me solutions.
Yeah.
Bring me relationships.
Bob Fuller, any thoughts that you can add to this? We were, and you have to put your mic back on.
I did. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Okay. I would also think that among the things that we are trying to figure for most of our clients is the transition between survival today and being future ready. And people need that bridge. This has to span both worlds. How do we keep things going while we prepare for the world yet we don't know kind of in what direction it might go? And fortunately, I believe this language, this institute concept, fosters that bridge, that dialogue, but it has to be aimed at kind of both polarities.
That's fantastic. Yeah. If I've got that right, a bridge for the future to come. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When it's uncertain.
So future ready. The whole world it's got to be future ready.
Yeah.
I like
That's wonderful.
Future ready.
Super expression.
Yeah, that's great, Bob.
Future ready.
Yeah.
Make your company future ready.
That's really very cool.
It's very, I think that's a platinum nugget for me, because my sort of song for the last 2 days has been that my country is in complete survival mode. And when we're in survival, we move into command and control, and then we don't spend the money because we're so busy surviving. As consultants are really feeling that. People aren't willing to spend on what could help them thrive. And for me, it's about, well, that's quite insular. Mm-hmm. And if we were to say, well, actually, we're not here to help you survive, we're here to help you be future ready, it kind of reframes the entire environment for me. So I'm really grateful for that.
Bob, thank you.
Bob, just a question. Have you looked at anti-fragility? Because it's definitely an emerging paradigm that's activating a lot of energy around the world. And the future ready theme ties directly to it.
Yeah. Well, it's a tough concept. Not many people have read the book, and I've only read half.
So, Sai, can you give us a little bit of the inside story about what anti-fragility might mean to all of us?
Definitely. I think a great summary is exactly as Bob is saying. It's future ready as a nugget to take to it. It emerges from Nassim Taleb's work in the financial space, and it really looks at not only really inspecting and adapting, but rather really how do we adapt and thrive or evolve toward the future? How do we gain from stress versus let the stress negatively impact us? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of energy that's building, and the challenge in his book is really putting it into practice. Everybody's trying to get it to practice, but people are struggling. And now that a few have made strides, there's an energy that continues to build from around the world. So conversations are core to it, very, very openly.
Anti-fragility.
It goes beyond resilience. He's not talking about resilience. He's kind of saying what he's saying in his book. So just tell me if I've got it. What he's saying in his book, it's called The Black Swan, is that black swans happen all the time. 9/11 was a black swan. Mm-hmm. Nobody can actually create resilience for incidents like that. And our world is becoming more and more unpredictable. Mm-hmm. So being future ready is much more than being resilient. Mm-hmm. It's a different space that we have to enter in order to stay future ready.
So I want to ask everyone, as we're thinking about these words, what are the competencies that are built into human beings that are future ready competencies? And what is the environment that helps us activate those? I have some sneaky suspicions of where some of them might be, but I'd be curious to find out. What is that? What are those competencies, Si or Bob or Mike? Do you know? How would we speak to them?
Conversations are definitely a core competency. I'll start there. Relationships are another core competency. And then behaviors. We've kind of, if we look at those three pillars, how do you take conversations, how do you take relationships and integrate them with behavior so it's translated into a given context and you advance in that context? That's one aspect. The other one is really evolution. And there's a lot of work that's been done around ecosystems, natural ecosystems, and how in any given ecosystem, something has to pass on or die in order for something new to be birthed. And this is a very difficult concept for organizations and enterprises to activate. But the concept of panarchies is one that we have tried to really leverage to put into practice of how organizations can, in a healthy way, let go of what they need to let go and give birth to what's new.
So that is a good, right.
Let me
go ahead, Bob.
Let me add just sort of another dimension, if I might. Competencies generally are associated with tasks or activities. Are you competent? Is it what do you have to do to become competent? And another way of looking at it is that we have critical systems integration, CSI. It's a famous television program here in the United States, but CSI is gaining, in your words, Judith, the competencies as an aggregate of those critical systems. We lost Si. So a critical systems integration allows a collection of competencies. It's not singular, and it's the blend of those systems, which sounds engineering style, but those are human systems. Those are infrastructure systems. All of them require that collection of competencies you're talking about.
So if I were to pick up on that and going back to your original question, I get excited at these conversations. So I think that there's an expansion of capacity and potential. And one of the capacities that I see, and if I'm going back to the black swan concept, is the capacity to live with uncertainty and trust at the same time. And for me, that's a huge capacity for being future ready, because that's what he's saying. The world is becoming more and more unpredictable, and the capacity to deal with chaos and stay trusting is a huge one, because what happens to us is that we get fearful. And I see a great place for conversational intelligence there, because if we can begin to voice our uncertainty, our fear, and conversational intelligence provides the space for that.
Yes.
And for me, that's becoming future ready.
Yes.
And so I'm really with you, and I can't remember. This is Bob. Yeah. I really agree with you, Bob. How do we capacitate rather than build capacities?
Right.
And I see conversational intelligence having a real place in helping with future readiness. In the educational system as well, children are absolutely impacted by what we're all going through. They pick up on the fear. There's so much fear. Certainly in my society, I can't talk for anybody else, but we are a fear-driven society.
Yeah.
I was going to add one thing to that, is that the research that we're doing with leadership and empathy really deals into exactly what you just heard. because it's not dealing with the competency approach. It's looking at a way to be able to tap into what's already there in human beings.
Right.
Most people want to tap into the fact of their empathy being higher, but we've been able to study and actually take some assessment on empathy levels, a way of retraining the brain. So you open up those networks and people become more aware, not only relationally, but also become more empathetic and actually start to feel more of what's going on in a room. They read the room better, they read people better, they read the organization better. They're all a part of that. So we're starting to tap into that and obviously look into what that is. And we got a great platform to do it on a lot of different levels at this point. So that's, I think, what really resonates with people. It's something that's innate in them. Now you're tapping into them, showing how to tap into it to grow it.
Michael, I have a question for you. You state the higher in the organization, the less empathy.
Yeah.
What's the origin of that? What's the origin? What causes people to have less empathy the more they move up the ladder?
The simple answer to that, it's very complex, but I think the simple answer is that I think their brain has been wired to task before relationship. They're very aligned with getting systems, strategic plans, goals, objectives, visions, all the things you learn that are supposed to be essential. They're good. The problem is they're not people focused. And as a result of that, you become less empathetic because you're more concerned about those things and less concerned about people. You're not highly involved with people anymore. And the higher you get up in organizations, the more you should be involved in understanding and reading people, and they don't. That's one simple answer. There's a lot of complexity to that.
Maybe they get not rewarded for that. Could that be another reason?
Yeah, they get rewarded for tasks. They get rewarded for,
Money.
goals, money, whatever it might be, versus what really matters in an organization is the way that people feel about their leader, the way the culture feels.
That picks up on something I think Usai was saying, is most breakthroughs in life are often break-withs. And what we're referring to here is the need to break with the tradition of promoting through task and systems and results, and start looking at promoting through empathy and the ability to converse. Break with the old way of recruiting.
Interesting.
I think
is the breakthrough.
I think from a human point of view, there's another dimension, which is that the higher I go up in leadership, the more risk there is for me, and the more protective I get about myself. And while I'm protecting myself, I cannot be empathic to what you're going through, because I have to harden my heart to protect myself. And I think what conversational intelligence gives us is the space to stop protecting and start partnering.
Yeah.
And when somebody shows me empathy, I don't have to protect myself anymore. And then empathy becomes a circle game in an organization.
This conversation just struck me so deeply with something, I don't even know if I can express it yet, but what I'm hearing is that in a world that's changing so much, we can't count on the expectation of future events to unfold the way we would always like them to, right? Yeah. So the question is, how do we anchor in the face of uncertainty? And what I believe we're learning is that if we anchor through our relationships, as we hold hands, as we're floating in space. What was the movie that just came out with Sandra Bullock, where she was with a partner and they disconnected and she had to float in space for the first time by herself? We're all floating in space in uncertain times. But if we have the hands to hold of other partners and build strong relationships, that we do quell the anxiety of change. We have less ambiguity because we know where we stand with others, even though the world around us is changing. Does that make any sense? Yeah.
We feel protected.
We feel protected because we are protected. Yeah. Wow. Well, if this is an example of some of the things that we can be talking about together, I personally am excited about our future conversations and so thrilled that all of you are part of this organization as it's evolving and emerging.
Let's certainly get connected on LinkedIn, gentlemen. Would that be okay?
Yeah. Yep. Great. Terrific. Okay. Any last things that you want to say, Michael, before we sign off? Whoops, we got to get your audio back on.
Just, it's been a pleasure to meet you, and I know you've had a really great experience, and all I can say is the relationship with Judith and Rich is going to enrich your lives. So
thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Hey, Bob?
As the longest running relationship, I will confirm that it lasts a long time.
Super. Thank you. Great.
And Sai?
Thank you all so much, and Judith, for bringing us together. If all of you there can do me one favor, or can do us one favor, just give Judith the greatest hug you can before you leave. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll see you soon. Thanks for having time today. This is so terrific.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Take care. Bye-bye.